Kadosh, Boker Or, Masechet Bava Kamma Daf Memdaled Amudale 44a1. Yesterday we were finishing off that we wanted to be mechayev al aktanim kigdolim. So shor adam, right? We said if it happens that a shor that comes and kills a human being, v'asabo ktanim kigdolim, and we made the same halacha whether it's actually got stoned, whether it killed a gadol or a katan. We don't care if the ox killed the gadol or it killed a katan. So therefore, shouldn't it be also the same thing that it should be mechayev al aktarim just like the gdolim? So he said, no, there's a difference that a human being, when it kills another human being, he's chayav arba'a dvarim. You can't say that to do with a shor, right? That at the end of the day, the shor, if it hits a human being, it will never pay arba'a dvarim, right? Amunumar comes teach you when you gach chovat igach lechayev al aktanim kigdolim, to be mechayev al aktanim kigdolim. But this is only going to be by a muad, right? That means that by a muad that he's going to be chayav sekila. Betam minayin. How do we know that a tam that comes and kills a tinok, that it's going to be the exact same halacha? So he says, Dinu, it's a kavachomer. Hoel v'chayev be'ish v'isha. Since it comes and it's going to obligate, whether it's going to be a man or a woman, v'chayev bebenu bavat. And it's going to be chayav also whether it's talking about a ben or a bat. Just like it's going to come and it's going to be chayav by a man or a woman. And you didn't make a differentiation between a tam and a muad. So too when you're going to be mechayev and a ben ubat, lo tachlok bo ben tam muad. You're not going to make a differentiation between a tam and a muad. And furthermore, kal v'chomer. So kal v'chomer, ma ish v'isha shekeru rak ocha b'nezakin. By an ish v'isha, it doesn't have all the power in the nizikin, because if other people come and they damage them, they're going to be chayav to pay. V'lo chilakta bo, but you didn't make a differentiation between a tam and a muad, right? That kills it. So he says ben ubat shipak ocha b'nezakin, but by a ben ubat that it is that other people that do come and damage them, meaning if they come and they damage, they're always chayavim to pay. There's no difference between a tam and one. But by a child, it's not the same thing. A child, we already know that a cheres shotev katan, if they come and they damage somebody else, they're actually going to be patur. That's what pegiyatan ra. Which means like this: by ish v'isha, if they damage somebody else, they're going to be punished. So here, if a child damages somebody else, they're not going to be punished. So isn't it a deen that if right now, right, you have such a case where by an ish v'isha, that by nizikin they're going to be because they have to pay. There's no difference in tam and one. So to here, there's no difference in tam and one. If a shor comes and kills them, obviously it should get sekila. So Amarta, so we said, the chidanin kal v'chomer lachmir alav. Can you ever make a kal v'chomer to be machmir? Im echmir b'muad achamur, right? Achmir b'tam akal. If you're going to be machmir in muad, you're going to be machmir in the tam. And furthermore, im amarta b'ish v'isha. If you said it by an ish v'isha, sheken chayavim b'mitzvot, they're going to be chayavim b'mitzvot. Yeah, he comes and he says, Tomar beben ubat. Yeah, he comes and he says they're going to say by ben ubat, right? Shepturim min mitzvot. What does that mean? Okay, so he says Tomar beben ubat that he's going to be chayav paturim min mitzvot. It says a completely different halacha. What's going on exactly? So he says like this: by an ish v'isha, if they're going to be chayav sekila, because it makes sense. Why? An ish v'isha are chayavim mitzvot. So if the tam or a muad, doesn't matter who it is, comes and kills an ish v'isha, they should be chayavim. But what are you going to say? Yeah, he comes and he says, but what are you going to say? Ben ubat, that they're going to be pturim in a mitzvot. What are you going to say by a ben ubat, that they're pturim in a mitzvot? Tamun Omar comes to teach you, oven yigach, ovat yigach. What does that mean? When it says the pasuk yigach, right? It's coming to teach you negicha betam, negicha bemuad, negicha lemita, negicha lenezikin. What does that mean? Basically, when it says uven yigach, uvat yigach, from the fact that it says yigach so many times, we actually come and teach you that there's going to be a chayuv on negicha v'venubat. Doesn't matter whether it was done by a tam. Doesn't matter whether it's going to be by a muad. Doesn't matter whether it's going to be negicha bemita, which means that you're going that he killed, or negicha lenezikin, or that he went to be that, which means that we're always going to obligate it. And therefore, in such a case, we're always going to be chayav for the negichot. Okay? Fine. Nekuda. Mishnah. Everybody with me? By the Mishnah.
Yeah.
Fine. Mishnah Mem Daled Amud Aleph. Says the Mishnah, Shor shaya mitchakech bekotel. Imagine a shor that's coming and scratching his back on the wall. V'nafal la'adam, and all of a sudden the wall falls on a human being and it kills him. Nitkaven la'arug et ha'behema ve'harag et ha'edam. Or another case. So now obviously we know that if he was scratching his back, he didn't have kavanah to kill somebody, but he was scratching his back and boom, and he killed somebody. He was nitkaven la'arug et ha'behema, and he killed a human being. Kenani ve'harag ben Yisrael. L'nefalim ve'harag ben kaima. Patur. The animal is going to be patur. Okay, the Gemara is going to say, we're going to speak about this exactly. What a patur from what? Let's see. Says the Gemara, Shmuel says, patur mimita. Says the Gemara, he's going to be patur from what? From mita. Okay, that means you don't kill the animal. The chayav bekofer, but you're still chayav in kofer. The Rav says, no. Patur means you're patur from mita and patur from kofer. You remember the difference? The reason why? Because they learned it from whenever you have skila, you have kofer or not. Remember? Okay, we're going to see now. Ve'amai, ask the Gemara, why in the world, according to Shmuel, you would be chayav kofer? Right? Atamu, it's a tam. A tam doesn't pay kofer. So answers the Gemara, kedam Rav, like Rav says, b'mual lipol al bnei adam beborot, right? Hachanami, b'mual litchakech al bnei adam k'talim. He says, no, he is a muad. But he's not an animal which is a muad of goring and things like that. He's a muad to do this. He comes and he goes on animals and he goes by the walls, he starts scratching and he tumbles the wall onto people. And therefore, since he became a muad to do these things, that's why he is a muad. So ask the Gemara, if he's an muad to do such a thing, so barakatalahu, so they have to kill him. Why did we say that he's patur mimita? Because he didn't have kavanah. But if he's a muad to do such a thing, that means there is kavanah. So you should kill him. Why are you telling me that he's a muad? I don't understand. לא, אבל לא להפיל את הקיר על הבן אדם כשהוא עושה את זה. אז זה מה שאנחנו עושים, אומרים. So when you have a case... לא, לא משנה, קיר.
קיר רעוע או קיר...
לא, קיר רגיל. הוא בא והוא מפיל את הקיר. Yeah? So what happens, in such a case where the short is doing that, he's mu'ad, if he's mu'ad, and therefore you want to say that he's going to be chayav the kofer, so he should be chayav mitah. He's a mu'ad to do these things. So Bishma Hatam, I understand over there, the Chazayaruka, that the shore he saw an esev which is coming up, which is very, very green. Yeah, he saw sphinge. Right? V'nafal. He just fell. Pashuti, nofel. Yeah? But in our case, right, that he's throwing down walls on people. Michael, what are you going to say now? In the case over there, right, he sees the esev, he wants to go eat it. He didn't have kavanah to kill it. He went and he killed a human being. But he just saw the greenery. He's seeing he sees the green. He sees the money. He goes and he didn't even have kavanah. But by us, what are you going to say? Obviously, he had kavanah. So answers the Gemara, Achanam, you're right. You're right. He's only scratching his wall just to come and to have his own pleasure. And that's why he's going to be patur from mitah. So says the Gemara, Menaya dinan. So how do we know be'emet, right, that it was only litchakech bekotel and that he didn't actually throw it on him to kill him? Because even after the wall fell, he still came and he started scratching his back on the wall. Meaning, if his kavanah was just to kill, he knocks down the wall, kaddish. No, he still goes and he starts scratching his back against the wall that fell down on the floor. So if you know that was the litchakech, that was his kavanah. Okay, Mendalad Amubet, 44b. Yeah? So he says, Vakati asked the Gemara, but still, Srorot ninu. It's Srorot. What does it mean, Srorot? At the end of the day, this is considered Srorot. Srorot is that you remember that when he's walking and all of a sudden out of the feet, it comes Avanim or whatever comes shooting out. So that's called Srorot. So therefore, how could he come and he says you're going to be Chayav Kofer? He says, right, if it's going to be Menutak Migufa Adam, so if there's no Chiyuv Kofer, so Amar Amari Bereder Rav Kahana, the Kazi Mine Mine. He comes and he says, he was going a little bit, right? Which means the shore was coming and pushing the kotel, right? Even after it went and it fell. So, right, until it actually went and fell on top of a human being. So it comes out that he did kill the human being with a gufa short. It wasn't srorot that it came that, it just knocked down the wall, and then the wall just, no. Little by little, he was pushing down the wall. So therefore, it was not considered srorot, but rather be'emet, right? He's actually knocking the wall down on the human being. So Tanya Kavated Shmuel Utiyufta Derav. We actually learned that according to Shmuel that he's going to be patur from skila but chayav bekofer, and not like Rav. And it's a tiyufta against Rav. So what is this braita? Okay, the braita is, right? Yesh chayav b'mita u'v'kofer. Sometimes there's cases that a person's going to be chayav mita and kofer. Yesh chayav b'kofer u'patur mimita. Sometimes you're going to be chayav in kofer, but patur from mita. Yesh chayav b'mita patur mikofer. Sometimes you're going to be chayav mita patur mikofer. Yesh patur mizeh. Sometimes you're going to be patur from everything. So basically, I gave you 4 cases. Yeah, chayav and everything, patur and everything, chayav and kofer, patur mimita, chayav and mita, patur mikofer. I gave you all 4 scenarios. Okay, makes sense? 4 scenarios. Now we're going to explain. Hakeitzad, how do you do this? Muad, right? If it's a muad and it's bechavana, so obviously what? Mita and kofer. Yeah? If it's a muad shelo bechavana, so then what does it get? Kofer, but no mita. Remember, in order to get killed, it needs bechavana. Tam bechavana, it's a tam bechavana, it gets mita, but no kofer. And if it's going to be tam shelo bechavana, it's patur mizeh umizeh. Patur from everything. Make sense? Okay? Fine. Says the Gemara, והנזיקין שלו בכוונה, רבי יהודה מחייב ושמעון פטור. So now the Braita comes and it says, to do a nizikin, right, which is going to be done shelo bechavana, Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says that it's going to be chayav, and Rabbi Shimon comes and he says that it's going to be patur. What's the reason of Rabbi Yehuda that he comes and he says shelo bechavana that you're going to be chayav? He says yalif mi kofro. We're learning it from the kofer, right, from a binyan av. What does that mean? Ma kofro shelo bechavana, just like by kofer, right? Even if it kills an animal shelo bechavana, chayav after, right, is going to be chayav l'shalem. So to benezikin nami shelo bechavana chayav, you're going to be chayav l'shalem. That's the shita of Rabbi Yehuda, which means at the end of the day, just like kofer, right, shelo bechavana, you still are chayav. Nezikin shelo bechavana, you're chayav. What's the difference? You have to pay. Not the mita. Mita you can't, but the kofer. So to nezikin. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Shimon yalif miktale de shor. Rabbi Shimon, he learns it from shor. Ma katlet shelo bechavana patur. Just like if a shor comes and kills shelo bechavana, it's patur. So to nezikin shelo bechavana should be patur. So ask the Gemara, so why doesn't Rabbi Yehuda learn it from the killing? Rabbi Yehuda nami not learn it katle. Answers the Gemara, danin tashlumin tashlumin v'danin tashlumin mita. It's much better to compare tashlumin to tashlumin, which is kofer and nizikin, than to compare nizikin to mita. Because one's death, life and death is completely different than damages. Damages are, so here it's tashlumin, payment, something completely different. Okay? Rabbi Shimon, Nami, and Rabbi Shimon also, he comes and he says, right, leilaf mikofro. Why don't we also learn it from kofer? So he says, darin d'chiyuveh d'shor mechiyuveh d'shor lapuke kofer d'chiyuveh d'balim. He says like this. According to Shitat Rabbi Shimon, even though you're right, tashlumin, and the other one is tashlumin and like nezikin and mita, he comes and he says like this. He says, kofer is the chiyuv of the baalim. The owners have to pay for the kofer. Everything else is on the shore. Meaning, to do with the concept of the nezikin or all that, it's always on the shore. Here, it's on the baalim. So therefore, I prefer to compare the chiyuv of the shore from the chiyuv of the shore. So nezikin to sekila, even though one is mita and one is nezikin, but they're both on the shore. And to compare to kofer, which is going to be on the baalim, on the owners. Okay, and with this we finish the 2 dots. Okay, says 2 dots. If he was mitkaven to kill a human being, an animal, and he killed a human being, so he says it's going to be patur. But what happened if he had kavanah to kill, right, the Israel? And then by accident, he killed another Israel.
I didn't know the kavanah was shor.
You see from here, there's a kavanah of the shore. And the
No,
kavanah is very, very
only the
important.
kavanah to kill an animal and he killed a human being. No, now it's to kill an Israel and he killed
No,
another
but you
Israel.
see, he's running after an animal to gore him. And all of a sudden, last minute, the animal whoops, and it kills a human being that was right behind him.
That's already one thing.
That's what we're talking about.
Now we're going to from Israel to another Israel.
That means I come and I see him, he's running after this Jew. And that Jew just happened to hop up, right? And all of a sudden, another Jew just came out from the door, boom. So he gored the other one. That's called it. Yeah? So what happens? So nitkavel la'arog et zeh, la'arag et zeh. What happens? It's going to be chayav skila then. Because we only said that if we wanted to kill an animal and kill the human being. But smash, if we wanted to kill a Yisrael, that anyway is chayav mita, and now killed another Yisrael, it should be chayav. Yeah? So he says, matnitin is not like Rabbi Shimon then. Tanya Rabbi Shimon says, if you nitkavel la'arog et zeh, la'arag et zeh patur, according to Shtat Rabbi Shimon, you're always going to be patur. because you need kavanah to kill this guy. That's Allah. That's what he's saying. My ta'amad b'shimon. What's the reason in Shimon? Tamakra, the pasuk says, "Ashor yisakel v'gam ba'alav yumat." What does that mean? Ashor yisakel v'gam ba'alav yumat. He comes and he says that the shor is going to get sekila, and the ba'alim are going to die. What does that mean? B'mitat ba'alim, just like we're talking about mitat be'alim, kach mitat ashor. Ma ba'alim ad mechaven ba'alim. Only if you have kavanah you get killed. A human being will never get killed unless it's a mechavanah. So to shor nami, it's going to be ad mechaven until he has kavanah. U'ba'alim gufayu mina. How do we know that ba'alim they need kavanah? The Amarkab, the pasuk says that the Arab law the kamalav actually kavelno. When it says that this is talking about the ir miklat, that a person killed the shogeg, so then he goes to the ir miklat. But if he has kavanah, that he trapped it. It was like an right urva, right? It was ve'arav lo ve'kamalav. He comes and they made it, and then he had kavanah. Rabbanan, but according to the rabbis, hi ve'arav lo, what were you going to do? Amni de Rabbiana, I pral zorek even lego. He comes and he says, what happens if you threw a stone inside of a kvutza of anashim, instead of a group of people? Part of them are Jews, or part of them are not Jews, and at the end they killed a Jew. So therefore, he was going to be patur from mitah because there's no kavanah brura to kill a Jew. Okay, what's the case? If you're going to tell me now the katisha kananim ve'echad Israel, there's going to be 9 goyim and 1 Jew, right? Between them, so just say the majority. Majority are goyim. This is goyim. Inami, even if you want to say it's palga half and half, right? Safek nefashot la'akel. We can't kill him. We always go lenient in safek nefashot la'akel. So says the Gemara, Lotzicha, what are we dealing with? We're talking about 9 Jews and 1 Kenani. Because even though you have a majority Jews and therefore you should be chayav, since there's 1 Kenani, he's like kavua. The whole kavua kametza metza damin. Anything which is kavua is going to be metza metza. Which means that even though you have the majority Jews, you had one goy. But that goy was fixed. He wasn't moving around. He was fixed in one place. So therefore, since he was fixed in one place, it's considered chetzi chetzi. That's a general rule. Usually you go by majority. But if there's one which is kavua, so it becomes mechza dami. Becomes like half and half. Once it becomes half and half, so now I cannot actually come and kill this person, this Jew, that he came and he threw the stone inside of the kvutza. Mishnah on Memdaled Amubet. This is the first Mishnah, but there's going to be another Mishnah on the bottom. First Mishnah says, Shor, right? Aisha, the Shor Yitomim, Shor Shel Apotropos, Shor Amidbar, Shor Hekdesh, Shor Hager, Shemet Ve'en Lo Yorshim, Harelu Chayavim Mitah. Doesn't matter whether the Shor belongs to a woman, okay? And or it belongs to Yitomim, that they don't have an Apotropos, or have an Apotropos, which means that there's already a custodian and somebody that's on top of the Yitomim. Shor Amidbar, which means Shor of Efker, Shor Hekdesh, Shor of Hekdesh, Shor Hager Shemet Ve'en Lo Yorshim, or Shor of a Ger that dies and there's no, right? He comes and he says that there's not going to be any. He comes and he says, and he hears, yes. So he comes and he says like this. He says that there's no heirs to it, which means that there's nothing to talk about, right? Because ger shemet, that's it. There's nothing. So he says all these cases, the shor is still chayav mitah. Rabbi Yehuda says no. He's going to argue, and he says like this: shor hamidbar, shor ha'egdesh, shor ger shemet, turim min hamitah. Right? Shor hamidbar, shor ha'egdesh, and shor hager that dies. All those 3 cases, turim min hamitah. Why? Because they don't have baalim. Meaning, a shor of a woman, the woman is a baal, right? She's the master of this shor, right? On the Yitomim, they're the masters. Right? There is somebody in charge of the shor. It's not hefker. But shor midbar, shor hekdesh, shor hager shemet, they ain't baalim. And it says in the pasuk v'uad bivalav. So Rabbi Yehuda argues in such a case. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita. Shor, it comes and it says the word shor. Yeah, he comes and he says like this. He says like this. When it says the word shor, and then again it says shor, and it says it 7 times, meaning from the psukim of Kavchet to Lamed Bet, it actually says 7 times the word shor. It says over here the shor 3 times in pasuk Kavchet, 2 times in Kaftet, and 2 times in Lamed Bet. Okay, so you have 6 times, it was 7 times, right? He comes and he says, why does it say it so many times? he says Lavi Shora Isha. Huh?
Okay.
Yeah, it says Lavi Shora Isha, Shora Yetumim, Shora Potopos, Shora Mibar, Shora Egdesh, Shor Ager Shemet Ben Yoshim. So he comes and he says Isha Yetumim, Potopos, Mibar, Hegdesh, Ger Shemet. Right? So that's what he comes here and it says. So he comes and he says like this. He says 7 times. Okay? So Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says, right? So that's why you needed it for the 7 times, basically. Okay? So now he comes and he says like this. He says, Rabbi Yehuda says, Shora mibar shora geder shora ger, shemet shemenushim, turim min amita. So now the Gemara is going to say Sal Chidush and Shitat Rabbi Yehuda. Amar Ravuna says, Poter ya Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda used to be Poter, afilu nagachul vasof igdish. Even if he did a negicha, which means that he came and he gored, and at the end he did a ekdesh, he made it into a ekdesh, or nagachul vasof, or he gored and then he made it into ifker. Mimai, how do we know? Mediktani tarti. From the fact that we learn both shora mibar and shora ger shemet ben yoshim. Shora ger shemet meaning what is the shora ger shemet? That should be the same thing. The kevan de lo yoshim, since there's no yoshim, havle shora ifker. That's shora ifker. The hainu shora mibar. That's shora mibar. Hainu shora ger shemet ben yoshim. So there's the same thing then. Meaning, if you're going to tell me now shora ifker, that's shora. It's all the same thing. It's different names. You're right. One is shora mibar, shora ifker. One is ger shemet. Right? Same thing. Ela lava kama shalom. That's coming to teach you. Afilu nagachul vasof igdish. Even if there was a negicha and then afterwards, right? He made it into a ekdesh or nagachul vasof ikir. Shema mina comes to teach you that it's still Rabbi Yehuda says it's patur. Why? Because at the end of the day, there's no ba'alim during the time of Lord Bivala. Meaning, even though it already gored, and when it gored, it did have owners. The fact that now you made it into ekdesh, you made it afker, it's okay. Tanya Yach, you also actually learned the Braita in accordance to this. Yes, I can Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says, "Afilu legach v'sof ikdish, legach v'sof ikir, patur from skila." Shneimar, u'av v'ila v'imit, ad shetia mita v'mita b'din shavin kechad. It has to be the same thing, right? In the same meaning that it has to have ba'alim the entire time. Okay. So says the Gemara, ugmar din lo ba'inan. Right? He comes and he says, what? Rabbi Yehuda doesn't need that there should be a gemar din. Right? V'hashor yisakel gemar dinu. When it says in the pasuk, hashor yisakel, it means that there's gemar din. So that means there's going to be a shlav, which there's going to be like a part of it, which is actually hukash. There's going to be a kesh between the negicha. So if so, according to Rabbi Yehuda, he's learning that the shor has to be tachat balut until the gemar din, until mamash the end. So Elaima, you're right. Meaning beforehand, we only said Hamadabadin. Hamadabadin just means it went in front of the bedin. But it doesn't mean, that means right now, imagine it goes in front of the bedin. I already come, I see that it's going to lose. I come in, Ekdesh, Efker, Batur. So what does he say? You're right. You have to add in Gmardin as well. Okay? Fine. Last Mishnah on the page. We're only going to do Mishnah. Mishnah says, Shor shehu yotzeli sakel. If you have a shor that's going out to be stoned, Vigdishu be'alav, right? And you see that they were magdish be'alim, eno mugdash. It's not going to be mugdash. Ushchato, right? So what happens? So one more time. It's going out to get slaughtered. And all of a sudden he made it tekdesh. It doesn't help. It's already too late. Ushchato besaro asur. What happens now if you came and you did shchita to it? After Gemar Din, the flesh is still asur. But if it was before, you're not allowed to eat it, you're not allowed to benefit from it. Right? But if it was before the Gemar Din that you did the Ekdesh, Mugdash, it's going to be okay. If you did the Shchita, it's Mutar Bana. Because again, it was before Gemar Din, so there's no problem. Right? If you gave it over now to a Shomer Chinam, Shoel, Nose Sachar, Socher, so they become like the Ba'alim, these 4 Shomrim. And therefore, if he damages, right, when it's going to be in their reshut, so the one is Mishalem Nezek Shalem, the Tam Mishalem Chetzi Nezek. Okay? Very good. Okay. And that's it.
So tomorrow no daf.
Be'ezrat Hashem.